Imagine living beyond the blueprint. Meet Ntindah Luembe Chiyende, a trailblazing entrepreneur, mother of three, and leader who's defied conventions to forge her own path. With 15 years of experience working with global brands like MTN Zambia and Emirates Airlines, Ntindah took the bold step to entrepreneurship, leading Moxie and Havita Farms. But what sets her apart is her gift for connecting with people and inspiring action. Join us on Nkani with Nkashiyandi as Ntindah shares her remarkable story of living beyond the blueprint, embracing multiple dreams, and living them fully.
Welcome, Ntindah. Welcome to Nkani with Nkashiyandi. So happy to have you here. Thanks for having me. I mean, I've been wanting to have you for a long time. Clearly, you have so much going on. So let's get into it. Let's start with, I don't even think you remember this, but like back in the day, you helped me with brand and business logo. And that was the first time I knew you to be a businesswoman. Yeah. And for some reason, you decided to be this whole working class woman, and then now you're back into it. So I just want the audience, because the audience doesn't know Ntindah the way I know Ntindah. So I want the audience to understand like the journey. Let's start from Moxie Marketing at the time that we did something together in 2017. Let's start.
Okay. So I will take you through that. So in 2017, I started Moxie because I was looking to make a difference. I love to create things. And if you Google Moxie and what it means, you will get the essence of where I'm at. It's a bit outlandish. It's really trying to figure out what my freedom looks like and how I can contribute. So that I've always been big on contributing, whether that's to my family, community, other women. So it's always been a key part of my life. So at the time that you and I worked together in 2017, I was actually working full-time. I had just landed a director role for the first time, and I was super excited about that. But at the same time, my calling was always going to be now. And so I did that for a bit of time, and unfortunately, of course, balancing work life is always going to be an issue. And so I didn't have enough time to commit to the side hustle, having 3 children, being married, full-time job, and running a business. It was a lot. And so I decided to focus on the career at the time. And when COVID happened, I think COVID changed a lot for a lot of people, of course. And I was one of the people that had to change as well. And during that time, I actually think a lot of things going on in my life, including my mother getting Parkinson's, which again is a big deal. And trying to navigate all of that, I decided maybe it was good for me to at least focus on a career. That's one thing, because business requires a lot of effort anytime, and it's enough. And so during that period, I decided to get back to 2020 into like 2022, focus a bit more on my career. And then the funny thing happened, which is if your calling is not the thing that you're, committing the time to and your effort, you will always find doing that. Right. And so 2022, I found myself going back into Moxie and, starting to work again, doing more workshops. And I think we even had an I Am Remarkable workshop. Yes. So that was me going back into what I really enjoyed doing, right? And I did a lot of work during that time for different organizations, individuals on the marketing front, more specifically around development and global development work. And one client I worked with was so happy with the work that they decided they wanted me to work with them full time. And the only way that was going to work was they dangled the right carrot, if you may, in front of me. And so at the time, I think that's when I learned the key lesson around continuity, business continuity, because without me, there was no one else really running. And so when I left to pursue that opportunity, I lost Moxie in a way, died again. And once again, the key lesson in 2025 that I'm sharing is that find your purpose, agree with your calling, and run with it, because you're always taking places. And so we're back on Moxie.
I love that. I need to take a piece out of that. I definitely put it in somewhere and be like, this speaks to me. It's been speaking to me, if anything, So I like that you mentioned how you transition and everything. But I'd like everybody also to understand, in as much as I also want to understand, like the struggles that you've had, like from literally like, transitioning from business into working and then back into business again. Obviously, it has not been the same. So I would really like to understand, like, what have been the challenges from going back and forth, and what would you have done differently?
So maybe I could start by sharing that if career pivots was a person, that would be. I have worked in many sectors. I've worked in cross sectors. So I worked in telecoms. I worked in aviation. So the airline. Yeah, I worked both with national airports and I worked with Emirates. So I've done that. I've also worked with development agencies, with the UN system. What I've learned is that I'm very agile, I'm versatile, and I adapt. And I think the key lesson I learned is that as we grow, we evolve. Our interests shift, and it's okay to be multi-passionate, right? Then coming back to how I managed, the pivots, I think with the skills I just mentioned, which are, being versatile, agile, quick to adapt, and learning, I think I haven't struggled as much with pivoting where I needed to. And the key drivers behind my pivots were actually not planning. So it was thinking about what makes sense for my children, my husband, my mom, the rest of my family. So the pivots for me have always been about how does that enable me to be the best version of myself and to show up where I need to show up. And that's always been, the driver of my pivots. And if I had to share around struggles, I think people want to put you in a box naturally. And so I'm different things to different people.
Yes.
As are you, right?
Yes.
So there are people who know you and will say, Stephen is a very quiet person. Other people will tell you, no, Stephen is really loud. So I think we're different things to different people. And I think careers they're not different. In that as you shift through your career and as you grow, people will meet different versions of you as you evolve. And so the struggle is that people stay with the version that they meet. So I've always had people who meet me who are expecting me to be the version they met 5 years ago, and I'm nothing close to that because I've evolved as a person. I keep learning and I keep growing, and I keep failing. Right? So these things will change. So I think I would say those have been the key struggles is, just people adapting to the new version of you. And the fact that we wear many hats at different times. And so what one person knows about you does not shape who you are.
Right. Yeah. I like that because that's what I refer to all the time. Funny that you say that because just yesterday I was posting about how people are still living in the past, and it's like, well, clearly if you're still living there, you need to stay there because you're there anymore. You know what I mean? So, and I like that you define the fact that we are different people to different people. Like, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, someone is going to take you for that person 5 years ago, or they'll take you even as you have been evolving. They'll know different versions of you, which I think for me, I would really love to know about everybody, different versions of you, because those different versions of you make you the person that you are today. And so, speaking of, you mentioned failures, I would like to know what has Ntindah failed at?
Wow. I failed at so many things, but I'll tell you, I think I'll pick the L that hit me the hardest. So in about 2019, I got on a farm in Wisconsin, and having, my parents are on the farm, my husband farms, and having had success in my little garden, I decided, okay, I've been doing chickens for some time, this and I've dabbled a bit into farming, and I thought to myself, I got this. I'm going to go all out and, spend as much money and invest heavily into farming. A gamble. No 1 year, no one crop cycle. No, like you could do literally the same things you did last year, and it would be an absolute disaster. So I think for me, farming with Habita was the biggest L I had to take.
Okay.
I was thinking, I was striving everywhere in my life. And so I thought naturally, this is, I got this. And that was not the case. And I remember standing, because it's a little hill on the farm, and I remember standing on this little hill looking down. I had tried to do boreholes 3 times. You can imagine how much time and money went into that with no success. And then, I planted, expanded the field for production. And it was just an hell. Like, in every sense of the word, it was an hell. And then I remember with the chickens, I had losses. There was a year that was just, it was just a disaster. And then with Zesco issues also, it meant that now my produce was, I lost 100 chickens in the freezer. So it's actually, I remember you had told me about the 100 chickens, and I was just like, where are you taking all these chickens? No, so we were able to recover some of that, but most of it was gone. It was gone. There was nothing we could do about that. And then we had a lot of fresh produce as well. So I was doing peppers, chilies, everything, herbs. That's what I'm saying. It was the biggest but one thing I loved about the loss that I experienced with Habita was after everything, I woke up one day and I was like, I'm still here. Right. This has not eroded everything. I've learned a lot of things about my current situation, right? At the time I was thinking that. I've learned a lot about what's happened. And the number one, I'm still here. I haven't got. Yeah. Number two. Thank goodness. Yes. Number two, it's okay that I failed. Yeah. So it's the best lesson I've learned, because since I learned to fail, I'm okay with failing more. Now, like, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. I'm not worried about what people will say, whether people will laugh at me, because at the end of the day, this is all, right? It's not everyone else. It's your effort. And I can, And then I went on to have a good year and then a bad year. So I just learned farming is like that, and I think life is like that too. Yeah. You win some and you lose some, and I think you need to be comfortable with losing, and maybe you need to share a bit more with people the value of failing and fail forward. And if we can all learn to do that and share some of our failures, we can help everyone realize that failing is not the end. And I think it's more the beginning. I love that. Yeah. And that's so motivating to me, because every time you have a failed project or something doesn't work out, you think the world is about it. Oh, yeah. And what is so weird is that it's us in business who have been in business for the longest of time. You would think that we're so used to failing. Every time that you fail, it's like, oh, I'm about to die. And then it's like, no, I failed again. I'm here, and I like the fact that you're saying that we all need to embrace that, because I think that's the one thing that we don't do. We don't embrace failing, because it's part and parcel of the game. You need to win some and lose some, like they say, yeah. And so, you failed obviously in farming, but business-wise, is there anything in terms of multi-marketing that you have failed in regardless of in regards to what you did in the past, and because now you're just starting, so maybe we can talk about it now. Like not starting, but restarting. So let's talk about in the past. Did anything in multi-marketing just make you feel, I'm not going to do this? Let me try something else. You're not there yet, but I can tell you that one thing I've learned is from 2019, I moved on to a regional role, and then I moved on to a global. And what that means is I spent less time in the Zambian market, working with professionals here, and working with the amazing and talented folks we have. And what that means is I'm literally starting from scratch. Well, the networks I have are still there. I still have a very good support system and a lot of friends, but in terms of not in the loop. Yes, exactly. So I'm getting back into fine. I've gained all this experience at regional, global level. I've learned what marketing and social media, all these different elements of the work, what that looks like, in countries where people have moved a bit forward that we can learn from. But that's the downside is I lost the pulse. You lost touch from exactly your heart. Yes, exactly. So where we are now, and so I have to reconnect with everyone and rebuild a lot of relationships. Yeah, exactly. So I would say it's been, I'll call it like, it's just slow to start, but I think we're getting there.
Okay. So no failures yet, and we hope they should not come.
They can come like not too quickly.
They should give it a pause, okay, so that we can try and build this. So speaking of growth, I know things like marriage and the transitions of being a wife and being a mother whilst having a business currently. Are you doing any sacrifices or managing the sacrifices? Because they say there's no balance at life, business, work, and everything. So, what sacrifices have you decided? Okay, we're going to do this to be able to do that and achieve this.
I love that in my home, and we stopped calling it sacrifices. We started calling it a contribution.
Oh,
yeah, we stopped calling it a sacrifice because it just sounds
too deep.
Yeah, it sounds
Jesus deep.
Yeah, so we're doing this out of love. So let's not make it sacrificial.
Yeah.
So we call it our own contributions and how we contribute. So one thing I always share and I'll talk about how I juggle this. I've been very blessed to have my husband because my husband, what a lot of people don't know, is he slowed down with his own career in order to allow me to write and to do my thing.
Oh, wow.
And so what that meant is I was always traveling. Sometimes he would meet me at the airport or with the kids, and I would change flights to jump on my plane and leave. So we're not even going home. We're just meeting at the airport, and it's been 2 weeks, and that's the only time we get together, and then they go off. So he was super supportive, and I appreciate him so much for that. And always made sure that we're not missing anything. At points in time, I'm equally doing the same thing. Now I'm slowing down a bit so he can do
driving.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something we've done. What I love with my children, and I'll tell you a little story that's really changed how I saw myself and how I made time for my children. A few years ago, I was working from home. But because I was working with an organization that was based in the UK, and my team was based in the UK, what that meant is, and I was managing I was managing Africa, so English-speaking countries. What that meant is that I needed to be available for different posts at different times, right? So times of issue.
Time zone.
So what a typical day in my house looked like that time was my children are waking up, and I'm already on the call. And they're going to school, and I'm those people. I'll see you, okay? And then they dash out. And when they come back from school, they still find me on the laptop, and I'm still in a meeting. Again, I'm just, and then they go to sleep. And by the time I'm going to sleep, the whole house is packed. So I'm available. I'm in the house. I don't say I'm present, but I'm not available. Right?
I'm not present.
Yes, I'm just not there. I don't have time. And one day, it was a weekend, my daughter was playing with her brother, and she was, pretending playing to be in an office. And so she's, on her laptop, and my son says to her, oh, hey, can we do something else? I don't want to play or do something else. And she said to him, shh, I'm on a call to us. I'll talk to you when you're free.
Oh, snap.
And I thought to myself, that's me. That's me, and it hit me that I don't want my children to think that work is the most
important thing.
Exactly. It's not. It's time for a pivot. At that time, I knew this, whatever is happening now, this is not what I want for me,
for yourself,
and this is not what I want for my children. And so at that point in time, I had to pivot again and think about what works. And so when I go back to contributions, I feel like her sitting that day and doing that was her contribution, right? Is you're not spending time with us, but we're making it work. So I've learned now that I need to prioritize. So I've taken a few lessons from the corporate world, and I'm utilizing them. So for example, calendars are a big thing for me now. I have schedules on Sundays. I plan out meals for the week. I
feel like you're telling me a version of you that I already know. Like, yeah, I just had a calendar.
Well, it's a whole new thing. So let me tell you why.
We should give you a birthday calendar.
No, so you know what has changed. I would say I plan everything to a T. And I always know that if I spend more than 30 minutes on something I have allocated, then I'm missing out on something. And don't get me wrong, it's not that I'm missing out on important things, like I don't have time. Sometimes when I say if I miss 30 minutes, I'm cooking dinner late. It doesn't mean that's a big deal. It just means I'm just running behind on my time.
Yeah.
But I do, especially Monday to Friday, I like to do that because it helps me balance out my time with my children, so I don't miss out on that. I'm not sacrificing that for anything. I'm rather thinking about how do I make sure that we're spending adequate time, that I'm available, I'm present.
Not missing miles.
If we're doing karaoke, I'm 100% available for karaoke. When the phone is on flight mode, I do that too. Now, I have learned to appreciate DMT. Okay, so sometimes I'm just not available for other people because I'm prioritizing my family. So when it's time for work, it's time for work. When it's phone time, it's phone time. And I need to sit back and have a glass of wine, I'm also doing that. So I just learned to use my, to plan very well, scheduling, reminders, and delegation. That includes asking my son to make me
Delegation is my favorite thing.
I think those are two key things I'm using now. I don't have to do everything, and that's okay.
Yeah. I think making time is probably to be fair. And me and my friend were having that conversation just yesterday, and she was thinking about how we need to make time for God. It was not about time for kids, the way we were talking about time for kids, but time for God. Like, how are we always sacrificing to make more money to? And I think my end of the arguments or debate that if you made was that I kept on saying, well, you do realize that we also need to be able to pray to God, because if we ain't got that bread, ain't no praying gonna be happening, girl. But like now that you said what you just said, I understand that to be fair, I love God. I really love God. And without him, like we wouldn't really do this, However, I think sometimes if I think about like what she was talking about, a lot of times we compromise the time with work. The way you're talking about compromising your time with the kids, over things that you can easily reschedule or things like that. We also compromise our time with God. Like, now I'm having a really life for him. It's my intimate platform for me. Like, so girl. So about that conversation, you were correct, but yeah. But speaking of making time and all these things, how are you now rescheduling to look at like Moxie marketing 5 years from now, 3 years from now? What's the plan for Moxie marketing?
The first one is, of course, income generation. The second one is it allows me to contribute be impactful. And the income generation, of course, impact is someone have a thriving business, right? But in terms of impact and contribution, I think that's where I find myself really being tuned into, my purpose. Okay. And my colleagues. I'll call it that. And the reason I say this is with Moxie, the idea is that yes, marketing is important. Selling your products and services is important. But where I'm at with Moxie is that I would love to work with mission-led, purpose-driven businesses who are thinking about their pockets, but also thinking about the population. They're thinking about the country. They're thinking about national development. They're thinking about community. And a lot of businesses do that. They just don't know
How to go about it.
No, they just don't know that they are. And what I'm trying to show them is that you can do it in a way that actually aligns with your business, but also supports community and national development. And I'll give you I'll make it very practical what I'm talking about. Is you have an organization, for example, that is providing seeds, okay, right? And most of the seed is going into rural areas, okay, to farmers, and they're planting this seed. That is food security, right? And yes, they sell the seed, and in other cases, the seed is going through third parties and being distributed for food to farmers.
Yes.
They're providing technical support to farmers at their cost. So at the same time, what they need to understand is if the farmer does not have food, if the farmer is not living well, no one is buying the seed and planting it. So for me, it's keep getting the paper, but how are you contributing
To make things better.
Yes, without people, you have no business.
Are you looking for stylish quality pieces that make you feel confident and empowered? Look no further than Mino's Closet, proudly located in Kablonga and Roma. As the wardrobe sponsor of Nkani with Nkashiyandi podcast, Mino's Closet is dedicated to providing Zambian women with fashionable, affordable, and high-quality clothing. From workwear to evening wear, Mino's Closet has you covered. Mino's Closet, keeping it classy.
Right? People make the business. Yeah, exactly. So for me, I think my purpose really and the drive behind Moxie is to help people connect the dots. And instead of going off and donating books to a school as part of your CSR initiative, what I'm saying is your business maybe is already aligned with another SDG. It's already aligned with national development plans that the government's put in place. How can let me help you to contribute in a way that you have impact beyond your contribution? Right? Let's not drop off books and assume that you've made a difference and take photos. It needs to go beyond the PR opportunity. So for me, I want to look back and, like 5 years from now, look back and be able to say, I was able to help these businesses identify the communities that they are really helping and make meaningful contributions and allow them to measure and track them. So that's, for me, that's the bigger picture.
I love that. I love it so much because everything that you just said right now, what I get from it is that this is now officially purpose-driven. And which simply to me, it simply means you have finally found your purpose. And I say this because, like back then, even when I've been doing women empowerment events and all that, and when people have been telling me to do more, you know what I've always been thinking, what more am I supposed to be doing other than having these events? And even when I set up on this podcast, I really needed to think hard about what more way to talk about it, even the whole concept of it and everything. And when I finally sat and said, this is exactly how I'm going to go about it, it's still all aligned. And in my head, I'm like, so basically, this is my purpose. Because anybody is like, really, as a Chinese person, I just never knew how I was going to use my mouth, for a good purpose, not just talk anyhow, but I needed to know how am I going to be. So basically, what you're saying, like, how am I going to align it with the growth of women empowerment? Because empowering women, yes, as we've been doing for the longest time, is bringing speakers on to, talk at events and empower women through knowledge. But how else and how more can I do it? Because if it's just us in Zambia, well, as seeing what wonderful work that Ntindah is doing, then am I not limiting the Zambian women to going beyond, what it is that we're currently doing? So what is, everything that you're saying currently is that it's purpose driven, and I feel like maybe that transition you had from starting and then stopping and then restarting was to give you basically every single person. That's how I feel. I don't know if that's how you feel about it, but after everything you just said, it's like, oh, so that was the reset. That was the reset button. Like, I've had many reset buttons, but like, you need to reset. So like when you talked about it, I was like, yeah. We've been saying a long time. And it's you only realize it when you finally find your purpose. Like, oh my goodness, like, this is what I want to do. And you literally just stand it up for everyone. I feel everybody needs to listen to. Just that part of we should be done. Everybody should be able to thrive after that. So I like that Moxie Marketing is looking to empower the country at large, basically clientele. Are we talking gender or it's general? So it's general. Of course, I have a soft spot for women and adolescents. That's
Even my work, the last 7 years has been in support of women's health, women and girls and girls. So of course, where I can, I'm always going to lean towards, making sure that more women are receiving support that they need. But right now, for Moxie, it's everyone. And I say this because when you're solving problems related to sustainable development goals or the national development plan, it's all encompassing, right?
Yes.
Every single one of those interventions, sorry, you are looking at women and how you can make sure that gender divide is closed, right? So I'm working with anyone that is looking to enable that. So for me, it could be, it could be a woman owns a business. It could be that it's led by men. But the key thing for me is, does your mission or your business provide services and solutions that are in one way or another empowering women, to do what they can do best, to be the best versions of themselves, to have access to commodity services that they need. For me, that's the key element in all of this.
And when someone is watching this and I would like to engage in marketing, are we looking at small-scale businesses and large-scale businesses? Like, what is the benchmark, if you will, for you?
I would say it's not. I wouldn't limit myself and say it's really about the size of the business. I think it's about the need. So let me put it this way, just to make it simple. I'm willing to work with any person, any organization that is looking to understand how they can contribute to their communities, to their, when it comes to the betterment of their consumers. If you have a product or a service, you operate within a specific area, or you already have an idea that maybe you're contributing towards something. You're just not sure how to quantify or tell that story. I'm here to help you figure that out. And I'm here to help you, think about how do you use your marketing as a tool to actually tell the story about your contributions. How do you use, marketing as a tool to inform people, to build awareness, and how is it improving their lives at the end of the day? So that's why I'm saying we're going beyond. If you're going beyond money, and also thinking about how your product or service is doing much more than just putting something in the hands of someone, then you definitely want to connect with me, because then that's where we can do some of the thinking and talk about how the marketing in itself creates an awareness, tells a story about your impact, and you can actually quantify and measure your impact, but at the same time, it comes back to help. Yes, and how it helps you make money. Because at the same time, I think what people forget is, if and I'll give a very simple example. You're in your neighborhood, or market, there's a person that you buy from. I like the two dollars. And you don't buy from them only. It's just not because you're getting the $2, right? It's that what your purchase from that person means. You know that it means that maybe they're able to sustain their livelihood, they're able to pay for their kid at school, so that relationship has gone beyond the transaction. So for me, anyone who's thinking beyond the transaction, that's who I want to work with, to make sure that you're not losing money. Like I said, that's why I'm saying don't go and just donate books and have another CSR activity. Do something that equips people, that helps your clientele, your community grow, so that they can continue buying from you. So there's still a return on investment. It's just people haven't always thought about it that way. We always tend to think these are two separate things.
Yes.
But to me, they're not.
Yeah. So speaking of like the younger generation, because you have kids, I have kids, you have a lot of nieces and nephews who are Gen Zs and whatever the next generation is going to be after that. What's your message to a young girl that is now in school or in even university? What's your message to the younger generation? Like, in regards to, because I think, especially like when I look at like Joshua, for example, I think she was leaning too much on, I'm just going to be this way. And I kept trying hard to tell her, say, Well, like looking at the direction where you're going, you might want to try and use your skill as well as still be that lawyer. So for me, I always try and push the limits with kids and also what's the skill? What would be your message to the younger generation for the business-minded kids, the ones that are in the business today, what they can do with the I would sum it up in few. First thing I would say is live beyond the blueprint. Life has no blueprint to success. There's no one way to be successful. It's different for all of us. Lean to your purpose, your calling, try different things until you figure it out. And don't worry about getting it wrong. It's part of the process. I think a lot of people tend to think you need to go to college, you need to get your degree, get a job. It doesn't work like that. I strongly believe that people are successful when they identify what they enjoy doing, what they're passionate about. And of course, having an education helps that. I mean, you do have quite good education. No, education helps that, right? Like it definitely gives you some structure to your thought and way of working. And learning, you need to keep learning all the time. So whether that's formal and informal, I think we're learning every day. But the key thing for me is do not tell yourself a story that you bind yourself to, that you get stuck. I think a lot of people get stuck because then you think, I've invested X number of years in this one thing. This is who I am. No, that is not who you are. Yeah. So I think that would be the person. There's no difference. So do you figure out what works best for you, what makes you happy, where you're most comfortable. Of course, from time to time you have to take on different roles or responsibilities, and that may influence the type of jobs that you get or careers that you get yourself into in order to find who you are. But don't stop trying. Don't stop and start pursuing someone else's dream. So, or building someone else's business. Because everybody else. So yeah, so take your time and think about that. But there's no, if you're hoping that you're going to follow X steps and boom, this is how I landed. It doesn't work. This is how it rolls. And this, I mean, this. We went to the same school. Have we landed in the same place? Never. That's the thing. So this is my point. Like we don't land. You could be in the same house, even with your siblings. You could be in the same school, same house. And still, your path is completely different. So I think people should give themselves some grace and just know that it's not going to be that way. The second thing I would say is assume positive results. To survive this thing called life, whenever someone criticizes you, whenever you get feedback, whenever something is going on, assume positive intent. What I learned from assuming positive intent is that you're better for it because you will not immediately jump into a frenzy. You will not start to feel negative. So just to give you an example, you're in a meeting, and this happens to people. I'll use a very corporate example. You're in a meeting and someone just says, this is a bad idea. I don't think we should do this. And this is after you pitch. The first thing that happens is this person is just being a problem, right? But you see, when you're seeing positive intent in that particular moment, the way you respond is different. Yeah. So rather than saying, you know what, then I don't know what you want from me, and then you get defensive, you would say, okay, thank you so much for the feedback. Could you point out or help me figure out, what you want me to do? Where do you think this is going wrong, or how can we improve it, or how would you do it? And then guess what? You will get the feedback you need. Yeah. And the feedback that person may share now, very constructive feedback, because you've changed the tone, you something. The second thing could be that there might be nothing. So if they really were just being negative, after you've said that, it will show that they just wanted to cause a bit of that tension or a problem, but there's nothing. There's really nothing to what they want. Yes. So assume positive intent. So all the time. It's hard, but if you start doing it every time, it's kind of like what would Jesus do, right? Like assume positive intent and then respond. So I think that would be the second thing. And then the last thing, that I will close off with is life is always going to throw you curveballs. Embrace that. Again,
like for me, these three things will help me every day. Embrace well, take the loss, accept that things haven't worked out the way you hoped, and they might not always go your way, right? So just learn to take, and the sooner you accept failure, I've noticed there's a whole new level of freedom you unlock when you do that. You live it. It's very different. I'll tell you that before this major L I was telling you about, I struggled a lot with dating, and so with everything in my life, I thought I had to be perfect and show up. People essentially, what will happen when people see me the way I'm looking, and I'm just, gosh, it would be. And when I started, when I took that loss, I realized that it's not that serious.
And you were thinking, you don't know too much about it.
Yes. Like now, if you find me, and the other thing people don't get is you might find me in my chitenge and the t-shirts, and I'm at City Market selling chickens. The next thing, you will find me in a boardroom. I'm the same person, but I no longer worry too much about
the outside noise.
Yes. But I think some of those lessons only come with failing, because when you're at your lowest, basic things matter to you, survival mode. Then you realize all these things actually never mattered anyway. So, but you need to fail and take that, once you fail and you embrace it, everything else after that will be fine. The reason most people don't talk about their failures, and there are people who failed, and it's a secret. And that's why we can't talk about it. It's the friend who's closed a business, who's lost a job. The reason we tend to think that needs to be a secret is because we're not embracing that things haven't worked out already. That that's failed, or it's we've taken that loss. We don't want people to know about it. But the funny thing, when you talk about it and you just embrace it,
it's a relief.
Yes, and people, have you noticed how it's all things?
Oh yeah,
it's just like if someone comes to you and says, "Oh, do you know that she lost her job?" And you'll be like, "Oh yeah, she's been talking about it,"
and then they're like, "Oh." So I'm the only one actually.
Yes, so just own it.
Yeah. Owning it is actually a struggle for me. And if I must say, in the past, not now, currently no, but in the past, I struggled a lot with owning a failure. If something has not worked out, I'm like, oh God, I'm not supposed to be failing. And then with time, especially after having all these events, and I'm like, I realized when you talk to people about the stuff that they haven't read so well, and they talk about it comfortably, I should be comfortable with talking about my failures too, I guess it's not a common thing, like you as you put it. It's not a common thing for everyone to talk about failures. Maybe it's because they're not things they're not supposed to fail, but failure, unfortunately, is not a good thing happening. It's not always rosy out there. And I know when people look at you, they probably think, yeah, she can't even talk about failures. But I hope someone who thinks that way, someone watching this, because then they'll realize, oh, she actually failed at something. It's just the way you embraced it.
Exactly. So it's not who I am. It's just something that happened.
Yes.
I learned from it. And I agree with you that it's not in our culture.
No,
we need to openly speak about failure. But I also want to add another lens to this. Everyone is striving, successful, and happy on social media. So, in a world where the narrative is really all about just, this amazing, perfect version of what
that is.
Exactly. It's difficult for you to then sit there and think about, you're already feeling like you failed, and you want to finish scrolling and feeling like, wow, everyone else is doing so well. So in the moment when you experience that, the one thing you're going to feel comfortable doing is to shut everyone out and to, just be positive that no one pays attention. Yes, so that's why it's also hard. If more people share their failures, and I love that, my Nonde shared her story, I watched that. I love that she shared that because I believe there's someone who watched that who probably is thinking, you know what?
She one of options, by the way. I think I told her that they might want to watch another episode. We don't know what we're going to talk about this time, but that's what I loved about what it is that I wanted to do. So the whole meaning of doing this podcast is because I like the people's stories. I like listening to people telling me the realistic ways of going about life, because guess what? If you're not realistic about your life, nothing will ever feel like it's real or you deserved it or you achieved it after. You know what I mean? Like everything just seems like it's heaven and roses. It's not that, you know. And this is the whole point of doing this. I'm like, business owners are going through so much right now. It's the economy. It's, you know, it's one thing or the other, and people just need that voice of reasoning to be like, oh my God, see that when you see it in her, enemy, she really doesn't look good, but when they see it in her, wow, it's like, oh, I mean, she's going through that. And I know something. Yes, you know, and funny that you said that because I think there was a time that we were all going through something was being abused because it was not like, what do you mean by that, you know? And yes, I think especially during COVID, because mentally, or however you look at it, everybody was really going through something. But even as much as people were going through something, no one was really giving us the real insights on how to go about all of it. Yeah, but I think about it now, have we really recovered from the trauma COVID was through? Because it was like a thief in the night. Like nobody saw that coming. Even like the way your props died and all of that. Like, did someone even school you to say that? Oh, by the way, this happened that you're doing something might fail. You know what I mean? Like there was no one to actually tell me, say, so girl, you want to be ready to just experience a few losses. You had to experience that all by yourself. And thankfully you're here to tell us that, there's this. And I think something else I'm also learning is that you're not just embarking on one thing, you're playing more roles. Like you're doing marketing, you're still doing fun, right? So that's something going on. Yes. So now we know that someone's not going to suffer pain anymore. You're not going to know. Wow.
Yeah, so I'm still doing. So I'll tell you, and that's why I said I wear many hats. So Moxie is my baby. The farm will always be close to my heart. Also because I went into gardening because I had high blood pressure when I was in hospital. My diet had to change, and during my food was it had to be a thing. Yes. So that's where that kicked off from. But at the same time, I'm still consulting quite a lot. I've spent a lot of time in health, specifically women's health. So I still like to feel a little bit around that and mentorship also.
I love that. And it's so funny that you said that because this is something, and I guess this is like probably similar in everybody's sessions, because you said that because you had a problem with your high blood pressure, that you needed to go into farming. So you literally took the level and made 11 sheets.
Yeah.
Basically, because you're like, I need to figure out something. And you're making money out of it. So tell me something about farming. Are you seeing like your profits yet, or you still investing in
The poultry, for example, things that have settled, those are income generating.
Okay.
But when it comes to just starting out with, especially with livestock, that is not a short term rental. So that is quite, the upfront investment, and then it takes a bit of time before you get back into anything. So you're spending more time. So
that's basically what's involved with this business. It's like when you look for investment to teach you how to envision your business. Yeah. Because it's not going to grow.
no, it's not. It's 20 speeds. Right. You still need to think about grazing and all of that. So it's not going to change because you need the money today. So I always say farming is not, and I used to hear this a lot. Farming is not for the faint hearted, and I used to be like, oh, people just so dramatic. It's actually true.
I've done chickens once with a friend of mine. Like, well, not done them, like, we were doing it as business together. I helped her. Let me insult her. I helped her, and I was like, yeah, no, farming, I think it's for because that whole waking up at 03 to make sure those chickens are eating, I was like, oh, no, not exactly up my alley. And she was doing it with so much grace, and I can imagine, like, if you're doing all those things, God bless you, to have all that grace to go to do. Those kids better grow up quickly. to help you with those chickens, to help you with those cows? What's the plan with the cows? Is it going to be for?
So it's a long term. I'm not even thinking about what I'm getting out of that.
Okay.
Yeah, that is for me. That is a long term
Plan.
plan.
So it's still
like bonds. Like that's how I'm looking at that. So I'm not thinking about what's my immediate.
You're just thinking about, okay, what's yeah. So in conclusion, I think we've talked about so many things. In conclusion, I would like you to just give us one word of advice that maybe you would have wanted to give the 25, 26 year old.
There are a lot of things I didn't do because I was waiting for the right time or the right season or the right person or the right budget. And I just realized like just do it anyway.
See the things.
Just do it.
And see the price.
Exactly, just do it. So I think for me it's just do it anyway. Like don't spend too much time finessing something. Sometimes actually trying it before you're ready helps you. It will help you do two things. Is this the right thing for me? Should I even be doing it? Like it still helps you anyway. Do I have what it takes? Do I have capacity? Have I learned enough? So do it anyway. And it helps you eventually get where you need to be, but don't spend too much time overthinking things or seeking permission or getting everyone to, support you because you won't always be supportive.
I watched something actually before something that actually said that I actually just spoke in terms of like listening to too much advice. He was talking about how if we want our sixth strengths to really like work great, because most of the time it's start anyway, we need to stop listening to what everybody's saying. So you need to just sit and just do it. Because the moment you get advice from Ntindah and the other person and the other person, by the time the fourth person is telling you what to do, you no longer want to do it. So that's, you basically summed it up, like just do it anyway, because it's like a job of training. Like, you still don't think about it. So much for having me, Ntindah. I love this conversation and I look forward to more conversations on the Vision Education.
Thank you so much.